The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hey there, it is time for the Bronx Buzz, and we do this every week. We talk to Bronx journalists, Bronx photographers, Bronx videographers sometimes, and the whole idea is to give you some insight into what they're thinking when they get to put pen to paper, or nowadays, of course, this to the screen, and give you a little insight into what's really going on out here in the borough of the Bronx. This evening, we've got two great guests. One is a assignment editor, and the other is a photographer. So we're going to get right to it. And my good buddy Patrick Rocchio from the Bronx Times is with us. He's the assignment editor. Nice to have you, sir.
Hi, nice to
Always
be here again.
Nice to have you. We were just commenting, and you know I've said it enthusiastically. The paper's been great. There's a chock full of stuff to read every week. Mm-hmm. We're about to get a little insight because it hasn't been released yet. You were telling me you were working on a story, and this is going to be a drum roll for people in Morris Park about a Morris Park road diet.
Right.
Where are we at? What do you know?
So we just got word today, actually, that that the road diet was approved, and this was after we put the story to bed.
Approved by?
By the New York City Department of Transportation. Uh-huh. So it has been approved. It is a, technically they're calling it a safety plan, but the term road diet has been added to that.
It scares people, and I listen. We know that a road diet, so to speak, has been up there in the Northwest Bronx on Broadway to mixed reviews, to say the least. Mm-hmm. And the idea diet is to make the roadways more slender. In some cases, provide paths for bicycles and pedestrians, etc. Right. Is that basically the concept that we're going to see?
Right, for about a mile in the main business district.
You know, I guess it's going to happen, but selling it to the community, of course, is because people are concerned. People say, "Wait a minute, that may not be the answer."
Sure.
Have there been, just in terms of background, have there been fatalities or other issues with traffic on Morris Park Avenue?
Well, based on the DOT's own report, I don't see any fatalities. There have been a number of accidents that are in that report.
Right.
And I'm just solely relying on the DOT here. Right. But their own reporting shows a number of accidents, some involving pedestrians at the intersections in question. Right. So
you know that neighborhood and those areas as well as anybody. Are there bicyclists who really would benefit and use, if in fact that's one of the things they do? Because I personally, as a driver, and I also have been a bike rider, I hate when they do that and then you don't see anybody using those lanes for bikes, and you're like, I'm sitting in traffic and it doesn't work.
I've seen bicyclists on Morris Park Avenue when I went over there to photograph it and take a look at it. I saw them bicycle. In fact, they ended up in one of the photos I used.
So they could be out there. Listen, I don't want to talk it down, or we're just going to lay it out there. Your story will be out
tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
Friday.
Here we are Thursday, so it'll be out Friday. People will be able to see it and read it and pass judgment and comment, and that's what we do.
Right.
I want to talk about a couple of other developments. You wrote about the Hammond Cove Shoreline Restoration Grant. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a very interesting and positive development to take a look at not only Hammond Cove, which is right near Locust Point, right?
Right. Yeah.
And not only look at that, but then use that as a way to, I know Councilman Jonai wants to look at the whole eastern shoreline. What are your thoughts?
Well, the Hammond Cove project has been in the works for a very long time, probably for about 5 years. Senator Jeff Klein was able to I think he kind of took the bull by the horns with that. I mean, along with certain community members, there's a number, including Pat Devine. There's also a couple of maritime businesses. So they've been doing everything that you need to do to get Hammond Cove dredged. But this is a separate project. This is an environmental restoration. And what they have done is they've obtained a 50,000. I think it's a 50,000.
I think I'm reading Patrick's article. It is 50,000.
Okay, it's a $50,000 grant to develop a study for 2 places about restoring natural grasses and things like that. That could possibly slow down water if there was a like a Hurricane Sandy or a big storm.
So this really is the first step, because you're just doing a design study.
Right.
And frankly, in these things, 50 grand is not a ton of money
No.
to do it. But if you're ever going to clean it up or make
Right.
it more usable, you got to start somewhere.
Right. So I mean, it's going to be dredged for sure, and that's a big deal. But this study, in addition to that, is something that I think that at least the people involved in the visioning session really liked. Mm-hmm. And Mark, Joe, and I said, I guess that the entire East Bronx shoreline.
That was what you put in the article.
Yeah, needs to be done, and he has expressed that to me, and needs to be looked at and studied in a similar manner.
Right.
It remains to be seen whether that will happen or not.
Right.
But
to me, what I like about this, and you would imagine that I believe in good dialogue and good talk. Mm-hmm. Once you start the dialogue, mm-hmm. that's the only way you're ever going to get further down the road. And if you don't have this first dialogue with a little bit of money, seed money, so mm-hmm. to speak, you're never going to get anywhere. So I think that was a positive development. Another positive development, we go from the shoreline right to the center of the borough, the
right.
hub. There has been talk and delays for years and years on the Jackie Robinson.
Roberto Clemente.
I'm thinking baseball players. I got the wrong one. The Roberto Clemente Plaza at the hub, which finally had a ribbon cutting. You wrote about it. Were you there the day that they opened it?
I personally wasn't there. The paper was there.
Right. You had a photographer.
In the person of, the photographer was there.
Casey Rodriguez. But this is a very big development. This is a community that's got 250,000 people that go through every day.
Right.
And it's been a mess, and now there's really something there.
I remember 3 years ago or so. I think it was about 3 years ago. I was in an office overlooking the plaza, and they were beginning construction work on it, and it is very congested over there. Very,
obviously.
Highly trafficked, I should say, not
right.
really congested, but maybe highly trafficked is a better way of putting it. And this plaza would allow for people to walk through and maybe take some of the strain off of the sidewalks. Another thing that's really great about it is, from what I understand, and this hasn't been put in yet, but there's going to be like a statue of Roberto Clemente.
Nice.
And I think there is going to be some other, like a plaque or something on it.
Well, I hope that number 21 will forgive me for using the name of number 42 in his place. But to me, there are drug issues in that area. There are vagrancy issues in that area. If they can police that right and then create like a normal culture, like when you go I hate to say, into Manhattan,
right.
and you have a center and there's kind of a plaza and people hang out and have lunch there. If they could create that mood, like a normalized, healthy area in that area, I think it'd really spur not only for commuters, but also the whole community. I think it's a tremendous victory. It just took too long.
Yeah, it was about 10 years in the making.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
To create a plaza. I mean, right now in this day and age in the Bronx, they're putting up buildings, big buildings in less time.
Well, they built the Empire State Building in a year, so.
And that was not just this year, as a matter of fact. All right, I'm running through a bunch of other things. You wrote a really cool story about BronxNet television
Right.
and this idea of BronxNet helping to foster healthy lifestyles. Talk to me about that, and it's the ongoing partnership between BronxNet and the Bronx Times. But tell me a little bit about what was interesting about that story.
Well, so BronxNet hosted a workshop for teachers who are working on a project with a coalition that has a state grant, and basically what they're going to do is counter marketing to what certain food companies or fast food companies, beverage companies, snack companies are doing. So the idea is the idea was to, and I think there's going to be continuing support to have the teachers come in, learn from the BronxNet professionals about various aspects of marketing, and
so that they can promote healthy foods, healthy
Right.
lifestyles, other ways of doing things other than fast food, which really we're inundated,
Right.
and so many neighborhoods, of course, are food deserts. I mean, we've been through all this.
Right.
So, congratulations to Michael Max and Marissa and all the people at BronxNet, but also to the Bronx Times for supporting it. I think who wouldn't support this kind of thing, right?
it's a good thing.
Great. Patrick, anything else you want to mention before we throw you the heck out of here?
Oh, well,
That's how we talk in journalism.
happy holidays.
All right. Yeah, Patrick, to you too and all our friends
All right.
over there at the Bronx Times.
Thanks.
They're doing just a great job. Make sure you check out, bxtimes.com.
bxtimes.com.
There you
sure.
go, and you pick up the paper. We'll be right back, and we'll be back with a photographer who also shoots sometimes for the Bronx Times. Don't go away.
Sure, I look cute now, but when my owner lost his job, it was rough. I was living on the street, and one night, me and this Cocker Spaniel got into it so bad, I wound up looking like an ice cream cone. I cried a little bit, but thankfully I got rescued, so I'm running, I'm jumping, all back to my old self, and I'm ready to give unconditional love, even if you put a lampshade on my head.
It's not always easy being a dad.
Do you have panda asthma too? Does that run in the family? This is the home of the most priceless kung fu artifacts.
But when you make an effort,
Dad, we're not supposed to touch anything. Oh, sorry. Go long, son.
it's always worth it.
Whoa, master!
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
I am gonna get you. I'm gonna get you.
Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov to learn more.
You know what, guys? There's a lot of tree branches and dry brush over here. We should probably move the bonfire over there.
I'm guessing Smokey liked that idea.
Hey, it's Ava, and this is Tess from Vivo's Do It Yourselfie, where we recreate the hottest looks from today's biggest music videos.
After cleaning out our closet, we have a lot of clothes we don't wear anymore.
Like this old t-shirt.
It's not garbage, it's actually a brand new rug.
And to make it, all you need to do is cut, tie, and glue.
Cut the t-shirt into strips.
Tie the strips into knots.
And glue the knots to the bath mat. I love it. Give your garbage another life.
And recycle.
this is about as honest a program as you can get. I'm going to tell you when and where I met our next guest. We were both covering the Gloria Estefan event at DeWitt Clinton High School, and there was a lot of media there. And I can tell you, because I've been around a long time, you kind of hang out with the tech guys. I'm usually on the journalist side. And I met this guy, this photographer, and he was just the nicest guy I ever met, and which you don't always find when you're in media. But Ed Watkins is here, and Ed is a wonderful photographer, and nice to have you with us.
Well, thanks, Gary. Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
Just a little background, and then we're going to show some of your work.
Okay.
Where you're from, and when did you get started taking pictures?
Well, I'm from Pittsburgh originally, like I told you, and I went into the Navy in 1973, and I wanted to be a photographer when I went into the Navy, but my test scores were high in math, so they put me in engineering. So I was an engineer in the Navy. So I get out of the Navy, and I came to New York to visit my sister, and I started...
In this late 70s, I'm just guessing?
It was 78, January
Okay.
78, I came to New York, so it's a little over 40 years now, and amazing. I came to visit my sister, and bingo. So anyway, my sister was working in an art gallery, and the photographer came to the art gallery to take pictures, and he needed an assistant.
There
So
you
my
go.
sister... Yeah, my sister got on the phone right away.
How about this guy?
Yeah, she called me up and she said, you know, Mr. Taylor needs an assistant. We'll call him. So I went to see Dick, and
one thing led to another.
Yeah.
What do you love about taking pictures?
well, you know, I mean, you know, it's the excitement. You know, I know, like when I first started, you know, we mainly used the 8x10 camera, the 5x7 camera. You know, we used the view camera.
And paid for every photograph. You bought the film, and you paid for the developing.
Yeah, and we
of
went
course.
down to the lab and back, and I worked in the darkroom. And you know, when you're making pictures in the darkroom, it's kind of magical, and it's kind of like a dance, almost. So.
So the
really
good and the
enjoyed
bad news is now you don't have to do that, but the bad news is maybe you lose a little control and lose kind of that
Well,
funky
The-
manual
the
thing.
Sitting in front of the computer for hours is kind of tedious, yeah.
Yeah, compared to
Right.
developing. And now you've worked for you work freelance. One of the people and we
Yeah.
met. I think you were shooting for the Bronx Times that
Yes,
day.
yeah.
But you work for a variety of and so talk a little bit about who you've worked
Well,
for.
you know, over the years, you know, I had mainly I photographed works of art, so I mainly worked in galleries and museums. You know, I photographed the entire collection for the Museum of Arts and Design. I helped digitalize the Frick collection. I worked. I did the entire permanent collection of the Union League Club in New York.
I'm just guessing though. The secret to shooting art like that is it's all lighting.
It is.
It's all. You can click all you want, but if you don't
Yeah.
set it up right, it doesn't.
That's
it
true.
Doesn't work.
You're absolutely right.
And that's what your passion is to this day, you think? Because we're going to look at some of your pictures. They weren't art pictures.
No, you know, I do street stuff too, and believe it or not, I taught ice skating for 7 seasons.
Wow.
And I've played drums for over 50 years. I took lessons from the percussionist of the Pittsburgh Symphony back when I was a kid. So,
He's just always been a creative sort.
man,
All right, you ready to look at pictures? Well,
Sure.
you've seen these pictures, but I want to.
Yeah.
Where do you see what we're going to see? So let's go.
Yeah.
Show pictures. What do we got? All right, here's this first one. Are we going to see it up here, or we're going to pick it up? Here we go. Here it is.
Oh, yeah. Okay, it's a little contrasty, but Willie and Ray, this is Ray down here, and this is
seated,
Willie
right?
Ringeisen. Yeah.
Okay.
And these were my neighbors in Pittsburgh, and I grew up pretty much on their farm in Pittsburgh, and I took this picture in 1993, and Willie's just leaning over to tell Ray that Eddie's taking our picture. So I hurried up and took this one from the hip.
But there's a little emotion in it, and of course.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
tremendous.
They were really, really wonderful people.
And the background communicates a little bit too, you know.
Oh yeah. I mean, like going on their property was really like, you know, going back in time.
Yeah.
And
even though, listen, 1993 is 25 years ago, I don't want you to get scared.
Oh yeah.
But there's a timelessness to it. If you told me you took it last week, I would say,
well, their house was built in 1900. And I don't think they really did anything to it for years and years and years.
All right, let's see the next. What do we got?
Yeah.
We got something good?
Well, this is the studio where...
This to me looked like it was shot through a keyhole.
Yeah, it's a fisheye lens.
Okay.
This is the studio where I started with Mr. Taylor. And there's the 8x10 camera in the back there. And then, you know, we had, it looks a little unorganized, but it wasn't. It was quite organized.
And how old is that photograph?
That's 40 years old.
40 years old. And what, you know, nowadays, in fact, I was just in a photographer's private studio recently. Yeah. And you don't need much. I mean, he's got his scrim there, but here, in order to do it in the old days with all the different scoops.
And Mr. Taylor was very technical. I mean, we had, you know, I had to even mark each sheet of film for the development times and everything. You know, it was.
It's a different world.
What?
I see in the middle there. You can see the stereo. You can see the stereo, right?
That's my stereo from the Navy when I got in the Navy.
Yeah, with the cassette player. All right, what do we got? What's next?
Okay.
Oh, this.
Yeah, there's Mr. Taylor himself.
Oh, that is Mr. Taylor.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I took this. He was already retired and everything. I went out to Sag Harbor and took this picture. But Mr. Taylor documented the D-Day invasion. He was on Omaha Beach on June 6th.
Wow. Now, was he there as a photographer, or he just happened? Wow.
No, he was in the photo and signal company, yes.
That probably was somewhat inspirational to you to say,
yeah.
Wow.
I think that's why
Is he
gave
still
me
around?
a chance. No, he died in 2004.
Wow.
You know, but I stayed in touch with him for years and years and years.
You like doing portraits?
I do. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
All right, next.
He's an interesting man. All right, well, this one...
we know this is before 2001.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I think I took this one in 81 or 82, and I was just crossing the street there in Soho, and I framed this, and I took this picture. But this, you know, this picture sat in my archives for a long, long time, and then, you know, after 9/11, I started looking for, you know, photographs that I had of the World Trade Center, and this one came up. And you know, this was a, you know.
Is it the sort of photograph that you played with the lighting, or the shadows, the darkened, you know, part in the front, and you know, it's very interesting because, of course, now history will show what happened to those buildings, and they're almost like, you know, they're gray. There's something very dramatic about it.
On the
In
screen
retrospect.
here, yeah, this is a little contrasty, but there's a little bit more detail in the foreground there. But,
Can we just put up on the screen to highlight just the photo without, so people can really see what it is? Oh, look at that.
Well, thanks.
It's very dramatic, and of course, in retrospect, you know, the fact that the buildings are grayed.
Yeah, they're almost ghostly. Yeah.
I guess that was the right word. Thank you. All right, next. What do we got?
Okay, this is Hank, and I have several photographs of Hank, but I just brought one. Every time I went down to Soho to take pictures of art, I'd take my little camera out and go around the corner, and there he was. And Hank was like a fixture there on Prince Street for a long time. I called him the Prince Street Cowboy. But I took several pictures of him, like washing himself at a fire hydrant. And
it seems obvious, but I'd rather have you articulate it. What is it about Hank that made him so compelling? And by the way, the expression you caught on his face was like an old country western guy.
Yeah, I think he's tuning
in the urban jungle.
He's tuning his guitar. It's very funny. But you know, he was a real character, and I saw him often. So I decided to photograph him. And
how old is that photograph?
That one's about 34, 35 years old, I guess. Yeah.
Tremendous.
Yeah, thanks.
It is tremendous. All right, keep going. We got more. I don't know how many we'll fit in. We're going to try and get as many as we can. It's okay. Now this.
Yeah, well, I was on an art job when I did this one, and this is kind of like a Mondrian kind of feel to it.
A what kind of feel?
Mondrian is a painter.
Okay.
He uses this kind of design.
So we're like at 59th Street looking north? Or even further south?
Yes, maybe it's about 60.
Okay.
60
Something street
yeah,
looking
and
north.
I was on the 44th floor, I think, and it was a beautiful day, and I was doing interiors of this apartment, so I decided to turn the camera and take this one.
Well, there's two things that strike me right away. Is when I looked at it at first, and we can put that picture full frame again. Right in the front of it, I thought it was a swimming pool.
Oh.
You know, I guess that's a
Yeah, that's
pane
well, no,
or
this
the air conditioner or something?
No, that's glass or mirrored furniture. It's
wow.
Mirrored furniture.
Tremendous effect. And then the other thing is on the right panel, where it's almost like a separate photograph because Central Park has a natural border to it where you can see the Central Park reservoir.
Yeah, you can see the reservoir there. Yeah.
Tremendous. When you take a photograph like that, are you aware that like, wow, this is special, or do you have to go look at them later and say, oh, look what I got?
No. A lot of times you see it in the viewfinder, you can say, that's a good picture.
That's a good shot.
Yeah.
Partially because in many cases you're doing stationary subjects.
Yes.
So then you can see that.
This is all on the
if
tripod.
you're getting action, then you gotta kind of.
That's true.
Yeah. All right, go ahead. What do we got?
Okay, this is the Frick collection.
Oh.
So this is when I did this for a promotional. That was right around. I guess it was right around Thanksgiving, and they fixed up the dining room for me, and I did this.
Now, what is the Frick collection?
The Frick.
Excuse me for not knowing.
Oh, the Frick collection is it's a museum on 70th and 5th. It was Henry Clay Frick's house.
Do they tell
Henry
you
Clay
what,
Frick is from Pittsburgh.
Do they tell you what they want to represent, or do they say go in there and go nuts?
No. They asked me to do certain shots, usually, yeah.
Ed, aside from the shooting news and all that, what's next for you? Just more of the same kind of thing?
Well, I really enjoy working for the Bronx Times. They send me on assignments, and I really have embraced it. I think there's. It's a lot different than what I'm used to.
Right.
But
and listen,
I meet people like you, and it's really great.
Well, there's a sense of reality in the Bronx that you don't get anywhere else. I'm going to input that, and I know from covering the Bronx and reporting on the Bronx for all these years. Well, it's just great that we got a chance to get you on the show, and guess what's going to happen? We're going to invite you again.
Oh, good.
Because he's got all those years of pictures. We're going to he's got more pictures.
Oh, thank you, Gary.
It's always a pleasure, Ed.
Okay, thank you.
Nice to see you. And guess what happens now? We're going to end the show, right? That's it. All right, so what are we doing Monday night on Bronx Talk? We will be inviting Council Member Vanessa Gibson, who's going to talk about the Jerome Avenue rezoning, the whole notion of taking apart Rikers Island, and what are they going to do with the jails, and of course, how does that impact the Bronx, and many of the other issues that go on in the kind of central West Bronx that is her district. And that's it. And they're telling me I got to say goodnight. Good night.